the CSGO hits keep coming. We've had Tategate. We've had Moldgate. We've had Fistgate. What next? Well, I want you to cast your mind back to another video I did, and surprise, surprise, it got me a ton of hate and a ton of threats. I was doing a bit of coverage about an incident that happened involving Na'Vi. I'll give you a summary. It was when there was a promotion sort of happening. A fan of Na'Vi had placed a bet that somebody would buy the M249 in the game. And GG who were the sponsor of Na'Vi, had somehow allowed odds of 500 to 1 that somebody would buy an M249 at some point during the game. And the fan had tweeted out the betting slip, and then other Ukrainian and CIS region influencers started tweeting out, oh yeah, look, like we really want this fan to get it, it'd be amazing, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, let's hope that the M249 happens. And of course, you know, this went viral, it was great advertising, and wouldn't you know it, Perfecto accidentally bought an M249 by accident and dropped it on the floor. And he only bloody won his bet. And then GG said, oh, you beat the bookies, God. If only we weren't just giving our money away. Now that is called spot fixing. It's increasingly popular in sports. I've done a whole video about this. You can go look it up. Did Na'Vi commit spot fixing? Basically what you do with spot fixing, you don't fix a whole game. You fix a moment in a game. And this has been going on for decades. Very popular in China with, you know, Chinese bookies and illegal betting syndicates. In football, there was a big scandal where first throw-in, when the ball goes out of play and they take a throw-in, it happens at 12 minutes, for example, and so somebody, whoopsie doodle, they kick the ball out at 12 minutes, and everyone makes money, and on it goes. How many yellow cards, you know, whatever. If you can manipulate an outcome, then you can do spot fixing with it. And that, by the way, looked to me to be an incident of spot fixing. Again, think about the coincidence layer cake. How many coincidences am I expected to believe? A Na'Vi fan placed a bet that blew up and went viral on the website that sponsors Na'Vi, and it's a super unlikely bet that shouldn't happen, but wouldn't you know it, in a game that they were already winning when they had loads of money, they decided out of the blue to accidentally, quite very accidentally, buy the gun required to make the bet happen. And even though GG lost money, they gained so much attention and so much publicity. And maybe even have encouraged more people to bet. Maybe even place that same bet. Maybe place other bets. Who knows? Who knows what the benefit was? That, to me, is something that should have been investigated. That, to me, is something that should have been penalised. Unfortunately, we're reliant on ESIC to do all the investigations in CSGO. And as this stream should show you, CSGO's a shit show. And there ain't enough hours in the day. And I've written articles about this. It's over. It's fallen. Tier 2 CSGO downwards, all bent. Fuck it. You may as well assume it is. So much of it is. It's fucked. It's rotten to the core. And then on top of this, with all of the betting sponsors and stuff that are going on, we're getting spot fixing now. It's a joke. No one's going to punish them. No one's even going to investigate it. In fact, when I put my video out, it got, you know, loads of dislikes, and I got loads of abusive messages saying, how dare you pick on Na'Vi? Don't you realize they have more important things to think about right now, like the fucking war in Ukraine? So all sports integrity has to end until, I guess. So fuck it, why not just fix games? May as well. Let's not hurt anyone's feelings. It's a fucking sick joke. But there was enough plausible deniability, I guess. There was enough obfuscation of the ties that you could say, yeah, you know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, maybe it's a coincidence, whatever. Then a story broke today that should chill you to your fucking core. We really need to take a long, hard look at this, and no one's going to, spoiler, because this story is just despicable. It needs to be dealt with immediately. It is a real problem for our industry. So, just coming out in the last, 30 hours or so, There was a report in Forbes Ukraine. I didn't even know Forbes had a Ukrainian vertical. I suppose it makes sense. Lots of business there. The Na'Vi ownership changed hands behind closed doors 2 years ago, and it was kept a secret. So obviously, for many years, Na'Vi were, run by a bunch of dudes. And then it was ES Force, and then they said they got rid of ES Force, but they hadn't really, and then they definitely did this time, and they made a big song and dance about it recently with the war, saying we have no tie, we will sever all ties with ES Force, even though they'd already said they had severed all ties with ES Force years prior, because it was a demand. They severed ties with ES Force, because ES Force also supposedly owned Virtus Pro, something Virtus Pro have also denied recently. I told everybody, when all these oligarch-type motherfuckers started coming in and trying to buy up all these esports properties, this is where we were going to end up if people didn't say no to the money. I don't know when we're going to learn the lesson. We're never going to learn the lesson. It's too late to learn the lesson. Esports has fallen. It's all fucked up. This is the important bit. Hold everything I've just told you in your mind, and I will read you the article. The Ukrainian esports organization, Na'Vi, has changed hands in an allegedly under-the-table negotiation that draws more questions than it answers. The organization's new owner, Maxim Kripa, has a background definitely worth looking into. Na'Vi's Counter-Strike esports team laid the groundwork for the fuck all that noise. Who is Maxim Kripa? Kripa is a character, to say the least. He's been part of and even founded several companies involving advertising, software production, rental of machinery and equipment and trading. Weirdly, he's also an expert on volcanoes with a diploma from the Institute of Volcanology of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Kripa is also associated with online casinos. His known associates involve companies like GGBet and VulcanBets, betting sites widely known amongst the esports community. So, Na'Vi's sponsor was GGBet, then they came back to GGBet, and this guy, Max Kripa, is the owner of GGBet. So I want you to process that for a moment. Their sponsor is controlled to some degree by their owner. And their owner is the guy that works with the betting company, GGBet, that totally didn't ask them to do that spot fixing bullshit. That totally just happened by accident. This is another report, Blix. Na'Vi's new owner reportedly tied with GGBet in the Vulcan Casino. It explains the different legal entities. Right, I'll read you this part here. Both Na'Vi and GGBet have legal entities in Cyprus. The official website Na'Vi GG is managed by Cypriot Nautus Vincer Esports CY. It also owns 3 esports teams' trademarks registered in 2020. For 2019 and 2020, the company's revenue amounted to about €9 million. The net profit was only $9,000. Approximately, according to audited reports. From the moment of registration in May 2019, the list of the company's directors and shareholders did not change. In addition to the Ukrainian LLC, Yevhen Zolotaroyov and also manages the Cypriot Na'Vi. Another executive operates another 30 Cypriot companies. The third director is a citizen of the Netherlands, Jan Schneiders, who also owns all of the shares for Na'Vi Nautus Vincer Esports CY. In addition, he's also connected with 10 more Cypriot legal entities. The GGBet site is managed by Brivio Limited, registered on November 22nd, 2012 in Cyprus. It owns 2 GGBet trademarks registered in the USA and 1 more in Europe. By 2020, Brivio was unprofitable. Suddenly, in 2020, the company suddenly earned €14.7 million. The Curacao-based company Invicta Networks owns Brivio and provides all licensed services. Both companies also offer services under the Vulcan Vegas brand. Na'Vi and Brivio are not directly related, but they are served by the same company, One World. So, at this point, I don't understand, right? So, we're getting to a place, like, for example, over in Dota, Na'Vi, at the time of recording this, are in the last chance qualifiers. There's a chance they could go to TI still. They're in last chance. I don't know how likely that is. I haven't followed Dota closely for some time. Been busy. But remember, GGBet sponsors Na'Vi. They don't just sponsor them. An executive from GGBet, apparently, it seems, according to Forbes Ukraine, is also the material owner of Na'Vi, secretly. And also, they're sponsoring the tournament, TI. So if they qualify for that, That's an unbelievable, nightmarish shit show. Valve will absolutely have to get involved. But the bigger problem is, like, how can we have a team owned by someone that is an executive at a betting company that has ties to all these betting companies and casinos? How can we have them competing at tournaments, especially given we've already turned a blind eye potentially to one incident of spot fixing? This has gone beyond... It's not even conflict of interest like where we're at now. This is just absolutely ripe for abuse, ripe for corruption, and we're going to see this is Na'Vi, for fuck's sake. It's absolutely mental. Let me put this another way. Let me put this another deeply unpopular way. Virtus Pro had to change their name to Outsiders and were kicked out of some tournaments in some games and had to have their players compete in neutral white shirts and other games because they were told, even though they're registered in Cyprus, that they were deliberately obfuscating their ties to Russian oligarchs and Russian companies, and Virtus Pro didn't help themselves by being a bunch of cunts when it comes to the war. Some of the players, some of the executives, crying about cancel culture, that sort of thing. And we've essentially forced them to sell. Virtus Pro have new ownership now. And it looks, again, while we're on the subject of sussy backas, we can bring this up. Virtus Pro sold to a new owner, and now they're going to be allowed to be called Virtus Pro again. You can see here, this is Virtus Pro CEO, talks about the esports deal and the tournament bans. This is a guy called Aram Karamanukyan, who is, it says here, he's Armenian, and he is the new CEO of Virtus Pro. He's done a tweet. Hey everyone, I'm the new CEO and investor in Virtus Pro. We're looking forward to a victorious future ahead of us. No one really knows anything about this guy. No one knows about his esports background, but he's come in. And apparently, this guy, we know nothing about, who looks like a patsy, this satisfies all of the problems now, and Virtus Pro can be Virtus Pro again. So, over the ties to Russian oligarchs in the Russian state, that actually was never publicly proven, always assumed, we made them play as outsiders, we kicked them out of certain tournaments, we forced them to change ownership. Now, Na'Vi has come out with something that directly would conflict with an ability to retain integrity in a tournament. And people are going to say, what do you mean, Richard? But surely they're like executive. Right, okay. Let's say I control a betting website. Let's say I control a team. If I have dominion over that team, think about the things I can do if I have a betting website. Think about odds fixing, match fixing. Think about all the ways that could potentially go wrong. I'll just explicitly give an example. I can go to that team and say, you lose this match, right? And then, and they're massive favourites, and I can set the odds in a way on the website I control in a super enticing way to make people bet, knowing the exact outcome, knowing the score, whatever it is. I am making a killing on doing that. And obviously, because you're an owner, right? People either have to leave the team, blow the whistle, and I'll just tell you, not a good time to be a whistleblower on that part of the fucking world. Not a good time in general to ever speak out about corruption in sports. Very dangerous, especially when you're dealing with people like this. These are heavy fucking hitters, man. They can turn your fucking lights off. As I said, I don't know if you've seen, just this year we had 7 oligarchs die in mysterious circumstances. They don't fuck around out there, you know what I mean? You are going to get your lights turned off. No esports player. As I said, from other reports that I know I keep saying I'm going to release them. They'll come out, don't worry. I'm getting them done. Once we finish the esports Iron Curtain stuff, it's all match fixing, 24/7, baby. Don't worry about it. I'll get them all out. But I've told you, I've interviewed players and they've told me guys have come to their house and put a literal gun to their head and said, do we understand each other? There are a million ways this can go wrong, and I hate to say it, but until we know who owns what, Na'Vi can't be allowed to play in tournaments. Simple as that. If you're ESL, and this is one of your Louvre agreement teams, and they've been lying about their ownership, and it's still completely obfuscated, and we don't know, for the sake of integrity of all your tournaments, they have got to go. They got to go. They need to be out of Pro League right now. It has to happen, right now. You can't trust any of this shit at the moment because we don't know what's established, and the only way to protect the integrity of the tournaments is to temporarily suspend the team. Now, that has just gained me probably about 500 death threats, but that's that. I mean, I can't think of another sport where this sort of thing would just be like allowed to happen, where like a guy who like literally controls a casino, you know, controls multiple, but apparently, although from what I can tell, I think Vulcan, which by the way, cool name if you're a volcanologist, a volcano expert, and you've got Vulcan as a brand name. But as far as I can tell, I don't even know if they operate. But there's a ton of stuff on the internet about how they were like fucking shady. But then again, everyone says that about every gambling website. So how the fuck do you know? People cry when they lose. People cry if they don't get the money quick enough. But if you go on like Trustpilot, like, you know, it ain't pretty. So I don't know, dude. Like, it just feels to me that this is really dangerous now. Like when ES Force were doing this stuff, because remember, ES Force wanted to control a betting site and wanted to control multiple teams and wanted to control a tournament. Everybody started walking away from this stuff and said, like, you can't do that, you can't have that, you've got to divest yourself. It's all as we fought back in like 2016, and everyone's just given up on keeping things clean. This is really, really bad. That is a massive problem and has the potential for like to really impact on the integrity. I don't know who can take the stand, by the way. No one is going to stand up to Na'Vi ever. They never would. They've always been this huge org that just like bullies people to get what they want, going all the way back to as soon as they got their super famous 1.6 team, they used to fucking bully tournaments and everything else. But this, I just can't, I don't know how this stuff keeps, well, again, it's always rhetorical when I say that. I'm saying I don't know how this stuff keeps happening. I do know why it keeps happening, and I can't believe it keeps happening. Also, like, why wasn't it disclosed? Why wasn't the buyer disclosed? Why wasn't the change in ownership disclosed? Like, that seems like a relatively normal thing to just announce. Why would it be secret? What does that tell you? What does that mean? So, yeah. I remember that stream I did, I think it was it end of 2019, where we were talking about, like, you know, surviving the fucking CSGO apocalypse, and I was talking about all the problems, and it's like, yeah, the scene won't die, but it's rotten, it's super unhealthy right now. It's sick, it really is limping along. I don't know how it's still going. It's just fucked up. It's just super sad. Like, I can't believe what's happened to CSGO.